Chapter 46, The Puppet Master's Shadow. The halls of Morgana's mountain fortress were not built of stone but of cold whispers and ancient magic that seemed to seep from the very walls. Aeled walked through them with the heavy rhythm of a soldier who had already accepted her own damnation. To Morgana, Aeled was the ultimate triumph, the woman who had been Arthur's shadow, now sharpened into his greatest threat. But behind her mask of gritty compliance, Aeled was playing a game of such high stakes that even Merlin, watching from the battlements of Camelot, could not fathom her intent. She went with the witch, were Lancelot's weary words. Merlin watched the facade behind Arthur's features fracture as he turned his concern to the recovery of his queen. 88,888,888 Arthur is moving his forces toward the White Mountains, Aeled told Morgana during a cold morning council, her voice devoid of emotion. She pointed to a map of the borderlands, her finger tracing a path that led directly into a narrow, treacherous pass. If we hit them at the bottleneck of CWM Weltrath, the Knights of the Round Table will be slaughtered before they can even draw their steel. Morgana's eyes gleamed with a predatory, golden light. And you, Aeled? You would lead the vanguards against the man you once bled for? I bleed for the side that survives, Aeled lied, her voice a low, convincing snarl that tasted of iron. And Arthur's side has no room for the likes of us anymore. As Morgana gave the order to mobilize, Aeled slipped into the shadows of the raven-haunted ramparts. She had not given Morgana the real location. The bottleneck she described was a dead end for a large army, and she had secretly sent word through a druid boy to steer Arthur's scouts toward the high ground. 88,888,888 The news reached Camelot like a physical blow. Aeled had not only stayed with Morgana, but she was leading the scouts. Arthur sat in the council chamber, his face a carved mask of cold stone. The joy of Gwen's rescue had been instantly tarnished by the price of her freedom. She is a traitor, Sir Leon said, his voice heavy with the weight of years. Sire, if we meet her on the field, we cannot show mercy. She knows our formations. She knows our hearts. Arthur looked at the empty seat at the table where Aeled used to sit, the space where her dry wit and gritty logic once anchored him. The devotion he had once felt was now a jagged glass shard in his chest. If she leads the attack, she is an enemy of the crown, Arthur said, his voice terrifyingly calm. I will be the one to face her. I will not have my knights carry the burden of her execution. Gwen, standing beside him, looked at him with profound sadness. She knew the secret Aeled had kept. She knew the depth of the love that had turned to this. Arthur, perhaps there is more to these a broken bar. There is only blood and law now, Guinevere, he replied, standing up to shoulder the armor he had once sent Aeled to polish. 88,888,888 The clash happened under a milling grey sky that mirrored the bleakness of the valley below. Morgana's forces, bolstered by mercenaries and dark enchantments, poured into the pass. Aeled led the front, her dark leathers a smudge of shadow against the rising mist. She saw him, Arthur, atop his white stallion, his golden cape a beacon of the world she had intentionally walked away from. As the battle erupted into a cacophony of steel and screaming, Aeled fought with a calculated precision. Instead of killing knights, her once comrades, she was disarming them, creating gaps in the line that forced Morgana's soldiers to overextend. She was sabotaging the massacre she had planned, but to anyone watching from a distance, she looked like a dervish of destruction. Arthur broke through the line, Excalibur swinging with a fury that nearly unhorsed her. They met in the center of the chaos, the rain slicking their armor and blurring their vision. You chose the witch, Arthur roared, his blade clashing against her heavy Cymric sword with the force that sent vibrations through her still healing side. I chose the world that's coming, Arthur. She screamed back, burying his strike and leaning in close, their breath mingling in the cold air. In the din of battle, her voice was a desperate, gritty whisper. You have to pull back to the ridge. The flank is a trap. Move, you idiot, before you lose them all. Arthur paused, his sword hovering over her throat. He saw the fire in her eyes, not the cold spark of a traitor, but the same fierce, agonized devotion he had seen before. right back to the Isle of the Blessed. Right back even to Broken Bar. Before he could respond, a blast of Morgana's magic hit the ground between them, throwing them both into the mud. Morgana's laughter echoed through the valley as her real trap was sprung. But because of Aled's subtle positioning of the vanguard, the knights were able to retreat to the high ground. Aled scrambled to her feet, her face covered in grime and blood. She saw Mordred watching from the tree line, his golden eyes filled with a terrifying, silent wisdom. He knew she was still fighting for Arthur. Go! She shouted at Arthur, as his knights pulled him toward the safety of the ridge. She didn't follow them. She turned back toward Morgana's line, a solitary figure in the rain. She had saved him again, and in doing so, she had ensured that he would hate her even more. As the knights retreated, a lingering look from Gwaine at Elun's wake, and the mist swallowed the valley, Aled stood amongst the dead. She was Morgana's general, Arthur's enemy, and the only person who could stop the coming apocalypse, by being the villain everyone needed her to be.